So I've got is it Jojo? Is that the right language?
I'm not sure, but if it's not, it's transferable to
Is it
whatever language.
Jose?
You can use JoJo if you like. Yes.
Okay. Jojo is a Christian apologist from Calgary, uh, and he explains Christian faith in ways non-Christians can understand and be challenged by. He works for Redeeming Conversations, a Christian communications ministry, as a youth pastor.
Oh, goodness God.
Yeah, no, that's one of my many hats for sure, Shannon. But I'm actually here today because I'm representing Parents and Kids Together.ca. We are actually organizing a rally in support of Alberta's new legislation, protecting kids from transitioning and protecting biological females from having to compete with with non-biological females. Let's just say it that way. And I think it's a critical time for us, especially this national stage that you brought me in. I'm really grateful for that, for us to recognize we actually have a chance here in a provincial government, in a province, to pass legislation protecting kids from transitioning. And the politicians that I've talked to in the past have said, we always hear from you guys when we do something bad, but we never hear from you when we do something right. And we want to rectify that. We want to change that and actually have an opportunity to thank Danielle Smith, Premier Smith, and her government for passing this kind of legislation. So, for those of you who are on the national stage, I think really for those of us who do this kind of work in particular, we don't have a lot of wins. And what we need to be able to do is celebrate a win in Alberta so that other provinces will be encouraged. Other provinces, particularly with a conservative government, will be encouraged to pass similar legislation. I know Ontario has a government, BC should have had a government. That's another story. But this is the whole point about what we need to be able to do here in Alberta. So next Saturday, we're organizing a rally at the Edmonton Legislature. Kelly Lynn will be speaking at it. A few others will be speaking at it as well. We're excited to have them join us. And we're forming a coalition. We're a loose group, a network of people from all kinds of groups, from parents groups, from pro-life groups, from my group, a Christian group. We have a speaker from Gays Against Groomers, actually, as well as the Muslim groups and who will be joining us to show that the vast majority of Canadians, especially the vast majority of Albertans, support this legislation. I was just hearing some of your speakers here, and I think it's critical for us to be able to speak out, and we'll be the ones who bear the brunt of the challenge. But as we speak out, more and more people will find their courage to speak out. And that's really what's critical here. Right now, when people hear this issue, their gut reaction is, I have to support this trans legislation or trans rights because otherwise I'm a hateful bigot. I remember my friend and I were at a restaurant. We were actually talking about this issue. The waitress overheard us. We actually started sharing what we do, and her first reaction was, "Oh, I support trans rights." But when we started talking about kids and kids as young as 5 years old being encouraged to transition or being told that they can transition, and by the way, this is a real story. Kenneth Zucker, who's one of the top doctors and psychologists who help kids to prevent them from doing radical damage to their bodies as children. He shared a story in Parliament of a 5-year-old boy who was gender confused and needed his help to not transition. Well, if that's the case, this waitress said, my 5-year-old boy, and we didn't know she had a 5-year-old boy at the time, he's not old enough to choose his bedtime. How is he old enough to choose his gender ideology? And in that instant conversation, she changed her mind and sided with us. And I think that's what's critical here. We need to be able to engage in those conversations, be confident in what we say, because what we say is true. And here's the other part, and this is why I love Kelly Lynn's story here. We're the good guys in this. We have been told by the culture for so long, we're the bad guys, we're evil. And what's stark about that, and what your audience should understand is historically, when people begin to absorb that they're the bad guys, that they're the ones doing wrong, they're the ones who not only shut up and capitulate, which is what's happening in the church in so many places, we actually also start blaming ourselves and we start feeling guilty for opposing this perspective. And we need to be able to encourage our people, your audience, to be able to say, no, we're not just the good guys. We bring good news to everyone, including those who are struggling with trans identity. And so we really appreciate your help to be able to bring. We have two more people who are detransitioners we'd love to bring to the legislature, but we need your help to be able to bring them in. We need your prayers for those of you who pray. And if you're in Alberta, definitely, we need you to come to the legislature, or else even just commit to contact your local MLA. We want to contact every MLA, every media outlet in Edmonton. They're already lambasting and attacking poor Kelly Lynn, who is just awesome and just so courageous to face that. And we need you to come to the legislature and sign up at parentsandkidstogether.ca to commit to supporting this and making sure our elected officials know the vast majority of Alberta believe parents and kids are better together.
Amazing. We have come such a long way. And I don't know how many people in our who are attending today and who'll be watching know some of this. I mentioned earlier on that there are groups who formed in secret. And I think from what I know of secret societies and secret organizations through history, a lot of them form during political times when it is when you can't speak openly. And so, this happens over and over again when we live in censorious environments. And one of those groups, so we did a summit in January, and no sooner had we kind of produced cut the videos into slices the next day, I got a note from somebody in Alberta saying, do you know anybody who's working on these things behind, has some who can contribute to the policy formation? It wasn't even public yet. And the individual was saying, Daniel Smith is going to be talking about this later this week or early the following, and the time is now. And so we were able to help connect and bridge relationships between these underground networks and these really highly qualified legal, medical, psychological, and educational resources to help to advise Premier Smith. The work that so many people are doing behind the scenes cannot be understated. And we're very glad for you in Alberta at this point as the leading edge in policy in Canada. So we'll aim. We've got your website. We'll put it in the chat, and I'm gonna. A bunch of us here on social media will aim to put that out for you. And that's, did you say a week from today?
That's right. So right now, actually, within the hour, the opponents of these legislative ideas are actually mobilizing today, and we're expecting a huge rally to fight this legislation because people have been lied to. I have a journalism training as in my background, Shannon, and I'm just appalled by the lack of professionalism that these stories are coming out with no one being interviewed for the other side. No one being told that there's stories like Kelly Lynn's of detransitioners who are very concerned that we're pushing this too fast. All we hear is that children will die, people will commit suicide.
Yeah, the experts all agree. The Edmonton Journal said yesterday.
Right there in one, I saw a news article trying to claim that all the sports associations in Alberta support having biological males compete with biological females because really there's no difference. Well, there is a difference between something like curling and boxing or wrestling. So the Curling Association, okay, maybe you can make that argument, but not every sport. And the fact that they completely ignore this makes it imperative that the people who have common sense values, who truly understand what's going on here, that there's a worldview being imposed where we're denying basic reality and we create reality based on how we feel. We need to show up en masse to show there are more of us who believe this than the other side. And not just that we are not against them, we are for them. And the reason why we're opposed to this is because we think there's a better way than trying to mutilate or castrate a child because she feels a certain way at this moment. And people like Kelly Lynn, they can speak to real life experiences to help people understand there's no hate on anybody. There's only a respect and a desire to protect people from harmful choices that they'll be facing in the future. And frankly, we'll all be facing that because we all have to pay for all of the kinds of support and resources they'll need in the future because the culture now is messed them up. So we need to speak out now to protect both those children and the culture in the future. Otherwise, Canada's not going to be around much longer. You can't deny reality on one issue like this and expect that we will live in peace and harmony and have all kinds of flourishing in Canada. We're
Mhm.
slowly destroying ourselves when we allow this kind of stuff to happen.
Yeah, it's a symptom of something much, much bigger. Very well said, Jojo.